"Ma'am, there's a call for you," said the in-flight attendant as he offered a small headset. Diriti Puri had only just sat down aboard the Princess-class luxury liner Endless Self-Indulgence. She was honestly surprised it had taken the idiots at Vinning Engineering and Salvage Team this long to interrupt her vacation. Diriti held her breath so she could audibly sigh into the headset microphone after placing it on her head. This had better be important. I'm off the clock.
Diriti, it's Benson.
The audio quality was poor, likely due to the electromagnetic interference in Vest's lab, but Diriti could still make out the panic in the man's voice.
We've got a problem. The Grand Titan, the numbers just don't add up. Can you get back to the lab, please?
No, Diriti said with dramatic emphasis. Anyway, the dropship is in final checks. I couldn't get off even if I wanted to, which I most certainly do not. I'm on vacation, heading to Canopus for a month of sun, fun, and Diriti trailed off as she remembered the carnal delights that overtook Canopus every June. More fun.
You don't understand, ma'am. The engine, we've never dealt with anything of this size before. It's overloading every actuator we try.
In the background, Diriti heard the telltale squeal of an actuator stressed past its tolerances, followed by the bang of an electrical discharge. Her audio cut out before Benson returned.
And if we can't figure out why the chassis keeps collapsing, Earthworks will terminate our contract.
Diriti rubbed the bridge of her nose and looked around the passenger deck. As a luxury liner heading from Solaris to one of the sphere's premier vacation destinations, the Endless Self-Indulgence was packed with upper-class elites who probably didn't want to hear an engineer argue with their underlings just before a month-long vacation. "Did you remove the Streak SRM launchers?" Diriti asked, hoping her rising annoyance didn't transfer through the connection. She needn't have worried.
The what?
Benson shouted over the sound of an explosion, and then Diriti heard a muted cry to get the fire extinguishers.
Get the fire extinguishers!
The Streak launchers. I did leave you a memo before I left. Diriti reached into her bag for her noteputer to double-check that she had indeed left that very important memo, and was relieved to see it in her sent box. They were overburdening the chassis.
No, I don't think we did.
Another explosion.
I said put those fires out. That's not you, ma'am.
Of course. Diriti replied sweetly, hoping to placate the increasingly irritated passengers nearby. And the missile bays were overloaded without any cellular storage to protect the pilot.
Yes, we're dealing with that now.
Benson replied over the roar of flames that were becoming worryingly loud. Very good. Then all you need to do is take off the launchers, remove some excess missiles, and then install the cellular ammo bays. Diriti shot a nasty look at a child who'd crept in to see what all the fuss was about. I'll check it all over in a month when I get back.
Yes, ma'am.
Benson sounded defeated. Diriti couldn't tell whether it was because of the cold finality in her voice, or because he was about to die in a fire.
Are you sure you can't?
Very sure. Diriti said over the cacophony of warning klaxons at Vest Labs. Goodbye, see you in a month. Diriti terminated the call and sighed again. Handing the headset to a passing attendant, she then reached into her bag to pull out a Grand Titan plush toy, holding a rainbow flag. Vest's marketing department was always early in producing promotional materials, and handed it to the curious boy. He snatched it up and scurried away with a delighted shriek as the dropship captain informed all passengers to prepare for liftoff.
This is your captain speaking. Prepare for liftoff.
Rare is a BattleMech's birth completely without incident. As one would expect from the famously eccentric Vinning Engineering and Salvage Team, the Grand Titan's birth was more eventful than most. As the follow-up to Vest's wildly successful Jackal, the Grand Titan was the company's first foray into assault-class battle mechs, with the wildly ambitious goal of being able to defeat all opponents, both inner sphere and clan. To meet this objective, the engineers at Vest envisioned a 100-ton assault mech armed with then state-of-the-art weaponry and equipment, powered by the largest mech-scale fusion engine known to man. Problems arose almost immediately, as Vest technicians struggled to calibrate the massive 400 LTV extra-light engine chosen to power the machine. Although initially presented as a wholly unique design, it would later be revealed that Vest engineers had used blueprints for a prototype Starleague design to accelerate the Grand Titan's development. Unfortunately, the original Titan, as the Starleague had called it, was never designed to fit such a large engine, leading to cascading failures from power management to actuator overstress. Of particular note during the Grand Titan's early development was how initial prototypes were so overladen that engineers were forced to strip nearly 10 tons of weapons and munitions. In attempting to utilize every new technology available, the Grand Titan was slotted with several Streak missile launchers. Although even then, engineers must have known they'd overtaxed the Mech's chassis as none of the launchers had onboard ammo bays. Once those launchers were removed, alongside several tons of ammunition for the Grand Titan's remaining launchers, the chassis passed certification. This clearly rushed development of the Grand Titan did eventually produce a functioning prototype that was deadly enough to defeat an Atlas after a staged 10-minute battle. The footage was used in promotional materials that would lead to a contract with Earthworks Incorporated. Mass production saw the design sold to every major house military, but the Grand Titan's phenomenal price tag, 3 times that of the AS-7D Atlas it had defeated, meant that only the most successful mercenary units could afford it. The production model T-IT-N10M Grand Titan came armed with diverse optics branded 2 large pulse lasers in the right arm, 1 medium pulse laser in each shoulder, and 2 small pulse lasers firing aft to protect the mech's rear arc. This was supplemented by a Holley LRM-15 launcher in the right arm and 2 Holley SRM-6 launchers in the chest, all of which were augmented with Artemis IV fire control. A MacArthur anti-missile system mounted centrally protected the mech from missiles and enhanced its overall endurance. Certainly impressive when the Grand Titan rolled off Earthworks assembly lines in 3054, combat testing revealed several flaws. Although the 18 tons of standard armor was substantial, the Grand Titan's oversized engine meant penetration of either side torso could inflict critical damage to the reactor shielding and institute an emergency shutdown. The Grand Titan's 12 double heat sinks also proved woefully insufficient when enemies closed range. Pilots were forced to stagger their fire or risk an equally problematic heat-induced shutdown. But most curious was the Grand Titan's complete lack of cellular ammunition storage equipment, a pilot-saving technology that was quickly becoming standard across the inner sphere. This strange omission, likely due to the mech's rushed development, meant that the Grand Titan was often reserved for high-ranking officers assigned far from the front lines. As new technology arrived, Earthworks upgraded the Grand Titan to keep pace. The T-IT-N11M leveraged the light gauze rifle and ERPPC for extended range punch. 4 medium pulse lasers and 2 4-pack Streak SRM launchers provided offense at short range, although the same 12 double heat sinks again prevented the Grand Titan from repeatedly unleashing its full firepower, and a Guardian ECM protected from emerging electronic threats at the cost of the anti-missile system. The only other model produced by Earthworks was the Dark Age refit, the T-IT-N13M. This variant of the Grand Titan emphasized overall survivability. The cockpit, actuators, gyro, and engine all had reinforced armor, while the heavy-duty gyro could withstand significantly more abuse than standard models. Triple-strength myomer propelled the N13M at the same speed as the base model once it reached a certain heat threshold, which was easily achieved thanks to an array of lasers and a heavy PPC. A final Grand Titan refit is only whispered in hushed tones. Developed by the Principality of Regulus during the dark days of the Jihad, the T-IT-N14R also emphasized protection, but only because of its nuclear payload. A Thumper artillery piece launched tactical nuclear warheads, which meant that the pilot was often uncomfortably close to ground zero. Armored components, hardened armor, and a full-head ejection system gave the pilot some hope of surviving its own blast radius. All known models were confirmed scrapped, although rumors of Word of Blake sleeper cells armed with such terrifying weapons persist even to this day. In the modern era, the Grand Titan is primarily seen in the FWLM and several periphery nations. Its exorbitant price and difficult maintenance make it a hangar queen. Still, Earthworks continues to produce this visually striking mech in limited quantity for the Free Worlds League and any mercenary outfit that can afford it.